Okay, this mini lecture is a 2-for-1 mini lecture. I will be covering the topics of the general process that writers go through when they're trying to create a new work, primarily for academic works, essays, paragraphs, analysis papers, things like that. But also, after I'm kind of finished talking about the process of writing, the steps you go through when you're creating something new, then I'll move into talking about writing paragraphs successfully. So it's 2 mini lectures for the price of one. Okay, the writing process. Obviously, the first step of the writing process is topic selection. Now, I should also add that it's really important that when you're looking at the assignment prompts that are given to you by your instructors or professors, read the prompts carefully. Apply your critical reading strategies here. So that means you should be annotating, highlighting keywords, and focusing on things like the parameters of your papers, how many words it should be, how many paragraphs. Make note of those details as you read through the topic. So careful reading is required as part of your topic selection process. Once you've finished selecting your topic, the second step of this process is brainstorming. Um, Several techniques can be used. One of them is called the mind map or word web technique, which means you would put your topic in the middle of the page, draw a circle around it, and then all of the ideas that you generate, you draw a line off of the main topic and create another bubble, and then you expand, providing examples of that idea. And basically, as your ideas are recorded on the page, you get a brilliant kind of nice web of words and bubbles that are connected to each other and kind of categorized nicely. So that's called a word web or a mind map. Those are brainstorming techniques. Another one is called a T-chart, and T-charts are quite powerful for comparison and contrast writing. So you'd put down the topic at the front, then a line down the middle, creating kind of a T, and then you'd put one side of the argument and then the other side of the argument, and or the one subtopic and the second subtopic, and then you write down as many similarities and differences as you can find. Good. So those are two methods of brainstorming that can be used. So essentially, in the brainstorming step, you're gathering all of your ideas, seeing what you already know, and organizing them in a rough kind of way. So then we move into step number 3. This is the official outlining phase or the planning phase of your essay. So you should be thinking about how many paragraphs you want here, what each paragraph will discuss. Within your introductory paragraph, you're going to want to have a hook sentence that draws the reader in, 2 to 3 background sentences that set the scene, and then your thesis statement. Thesis statements have 2 parts. They have the purpose punch that tells what you're arguing or what your position is, and then the second part is the guiding list. And the guiding list's function is to show what the topics will be in each of the main body paragraphs. So you should actually draw up what I call a skeleton plan for your essay. And that'll just help you when you're in the writing process. You can quickly refer back to that to make sure you're following things in the order that you organized them. Okay, so then number 4, this fourth step is really important. So depending on the type of writing that you're doing, you can create a little word bank beside your brainstorming area, and this will include academic words, verbs that you think might be powerful. If you're doing a comparison and contrast essay or paragraph, you would want to include comparison and contrast cues like in addition for showing words or points that are on the same side of the argument, or in contrast or contrastingly or in opposition. Those are all showing a point of the opposite side, right? So you can create your word bank to kind of get the appropriate tools and words and vocabulary pieces in place in advance. Okay, so then you move into step 5 of the writing process. This is a really important step. This is where you take all of that work you've done already and you start to actually write your draft. Now, your first draft. So I encourage writers, once you start, just keep going. If you're struggling with a section or a paragraph or a part of your introduction, don't let yourself be pulled down into quicksand and stopped from making progress. Instead, jump over that pitfall and push on. Once you've done your entire first draft, then you can kind of go back and try to fill in those blank spots. Once your first draft is totally completed, I propose step 6 should be soak time. And basically what soak time is it allows you to walk away from your work for a 24 to 48 hour period, a day or two, go and do some stuff outside or work on other assignments for other classes, but don't touch your essay or paragraph for a designated period of time. And now the reason this is a great strategy is because when you do come back to it, you should be well enough removed from the writing process that you're looking at it with fairly fresh eyes, which allows you to shift your lens or your glasses from that writing perspective to an editing perspective, looking for errors, asking yourself what pieces are repetitive, are ideas explained clearly, are there any common mistakes that we see in our sentences, is there enough connective language that are joining the ideas together? And so that's where you should the soak time should help you shift your role from being the writer to being the editor. And then step 7, the final step here, you will revise your entire paragraph or essay, kind of fixing it, improving it, and we call this draft number 2 or the second draft. And then of course, when you're happy with your final piece of work, you will submit the essay. So that's the first half of the mini lecture, is just the writing process itself. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we need to do in order to write paragraphs successfully. Very, very, very core idea here. Every paragraph should start with a topic sentence, and your topic sentence should clearly state what your purpose is. So if you're doing a summary, you have to make it clear that you're doing a summary. If you are looking at two different ideas and comparing and contrasting them, you would want that to be clear within that first topic sentence. Now, a topic sentence can actually be 1 to 3 sentences in length, but you want to make it clear that you're basically setting up the rest of your paragraph. So after you've completed your topic sentence, now you move into trying to state your supporting ideas. And we like to say that you should have a minimum of 2 supporting ideas per paragraph. And one of my really good friends, who is also an instructor at VIU, Stuart Komodo, he proposes that, like building a house, you need a minimum of 2 walls to hold that house up. Logically, if you think about this from a real perspective, you need 4 walls to hold up a house. But if you're drawing a 2-dimensional diagram on the board, you put a wall on the left-hand side, a wall on the right-hand side. The roof of the house is essentially your topic sentence. Then those 2 walls are your supporting points. Now, these are what we call your main points. These are the pieces of evidence that you're going to use to persuade your reader that your position is logical and well thought out. So you state that main idea. Now you want to provide an example to support that main idea, something to prove what you're saying has a real example in the real world. After you've stated your example, then you're going to explain your example in greater detail. Now these 3 things together, the main point, the example, and your explanation, or if we're writing at a higher level, the third sentence would be a citation that gives outside support for your example. The 3 of those things together I call a triad. I call them a triad of support. 3 sentences proving 1 point. You've got your statement of point, you've got your example, and then you've got your explanation or analysis of that. 3 together make a triad. So you've got your topic sentence, you have 1 triad, represents that 1 wall that my friend Stuart Komodo is talking about. So you'll need to repeat this triad process at least 2 times to have a well-supported paragraph. So that's what this next point is making here. Repeat the triad format for all of your main points. We recommend 2 to 4 main points per paragraph. Okay, so let's look at an example. This comes from the work we've been doing in class over the last couple of weeks. We've been reading these historical short stories. So now I'm going to, I actually have written a paragraph, and let's see if the purpose is made clear within our topic sentences. So I'll read. History has many intriguing but little known story, and investigation of such tales can demonstrate risks of human choices. So I know that we're going to be looking at a history focus and that we're going to be looking at some of the risks connected to human choice. Did anyone catch the error in that first sentence? If you highlighted the fact that this word here, story, should be a plural noun, then you were correct. Because we say history has many intriguing but little known. Many, this word here, is an adjective, so it tells us the noun should be plural. So that's just an error that I caught. And so you can see already, I wrote this a few minutes ago, but I've already shifted my glasses or my lens into that editor's mindset. So let's keep going here. So that first sentence kind of sets things up, but this second sentence will make things even more clear as to what my purpose is. This short paragraph will compare and contrast the death of Attila and coffee and the Pope. So that second sentence is actually a kind of a more direct statement of purpose. I needed that first sentence to kind of frame the overarching idea here, and that's because this is an independent paragraph. If it was within the body of an essay, I might not need that first sentence because that might have already been established in the introductory paragraph. Okay, moving on. So now let's look. So I've stated what I'm going to look at. Now I'm going to try to set up a main point, an example, and some discussion or explanation of that. Both of these stories are connected to the city of Rome. Moreover, they share a link to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so I'm stating a similarity, which does indeed do what I was stating in my purpose sentence. I'm comparing in this case. Both stories are talking about the Roman Catholic Church, or there's a connection to the Roman Catholic Church within both stories. Okay, now let's see. Next point. However, the story of Attila's death takes place over 1,000 years before the second story. So now I've kind of, because it's comparison and contrast, I do need two sentences to kind of set up my main point. So they're both connected to the story of they're both connected to the Catholic Church, but there is a big window of time between them. So let's see how I develop this idea. In both stories, the influence of the popes can be seen. Furthermore, these stories show that popes have been part of European politics for many centuries. So now this is kind of moving into that explanation and analysis portion where I kind of explain about the connection that the popes are in both stories, but that there's been a shift in the relative power of the popes in terms of their political influence. Okay, so that's a bit of that explanation piece that I was talking about. So let's carry on. Contrarily, while the popes in the story of Attila's death did not have the power to change things, so now I'm still honoring my purpose, which is comparison and contrast. Now I'm talking about opposition points between these two stories that I've decided to analyze. Pope Clement VIII from the second story was such a force that his blessing cleared the way for coffee to enter Europe. So that's pretty significantly different. This demonstrates that papal power grew as the centuries passed. So everything from right here, both of these stories, all the way down to grew as centuries passed, this would all kind of belong to the development of one example. And I've looked at a similarity and a difference in how the Roman Catholic Church is connected to both of those stories. So I have honored the purpose of my paragraph. You could say that I might need a little bit more explanation of the examples, but that would be something that I could clean up as I move into writing my second draft. So this shows you how to set up a paragraph. And so then we have this little chunk of language at the end here. The next point of comparison is, so now I'm using that as a guiding point, a road sign, to tell the reader I've moved past my first example and now I'm moving into my second example. So as I said, we want to have at least two pieces of support for one paragraph. So this paragraph is not yet finished, but obviously I have a limited amount of space on the slide. So what I did is I developed that first idea and I hinted or did my road marking, my road mapping to show that second main point would begin following what I've written here. Okay, so that's a quick look at how we can address the writing process. It's also an example of looking at building a paragraph from the idea of state a main point, provide an example, and then explain or analyze that example. Okay, well done.